When you start a Zoom meeting, there are a lot of different settings that you can manipulate. But there are also a lot of different settings that you can manipulate inside Zoom itself before you ever get to the meeting. So let's look at those and see if we can adjust your meeting to really meet your needs. So to see these settings, we need to go not to the Zoom app, but to zoom.us on the web, and you'll have to be on a desktop or a laptop computer. So go to zoom.us and sign in to your Zoom account. And we're going to manipulate what you see as a host. And then choose your account. And we're really going to look at meetings. Settings. And we're really going to delve into the meeting settings. And we're not going to look at all of these. We're really just going to look at what pertains to a classroom setting. First of all, let's look at the waiting room. Now, when we have this toggled on, this means that all the participants will go into a holding area when they hop into the meeting. And this allows you to choose, does this person get allowed into the meeting, or can I choose to say, no, you're not allowed in the meeting? And this keeps it safe for all of our students as they come into the meeting. I would suggest this to be toggled on. The next few are all about passcodes, and these are locked by the admins right now, so all of your meetings will require a passcode right now. So we're going to skip down through those. Now for scheduling meetings, you can choose whether to have the host video automatically on or the participants' videos to automatically be on. I choose to leave mine toggled off, and that way if I choose to turn my video on, I have that choice at the time when I turn the video on, at the time when I start the meeting. I never know what's going to be going on. I may need to be just right there and have my video on and ready, or I may need to get up and get a bottle of water or something right before the meeting begins. So you never know what's going on. And I like to give my participants that option at the beginning of the meeting as well. And then I can ask them to turn their videos on as we get started. We scroll down just a little bit further, and it says join before host. Allow participants to join the meeting before the host arrives. I don't like to have this option on. I don't know, it just kind of creeps me out to have any of my participants in the room before I get there, so I just leave that off. It's a personal preference, but it's up to you however you want to do it. Let's scroll on down a little bit, and here is a useful tool. You can mute participants upon entry. So if you find that your participants are having a hard time remembering to mute themselves when they get into the meeting, you can just take that burden off their shoulders and toggle this switch on, and it will automatically mute everybody as soon as they join the meeting. And so you don't have to worry about it, and they don't have to worry about it, and it's just already done. I have this toggled off right now because I mostly teach adults, and I feel like most of the time they're pretty good to mute themselves, but you know who it is that you're teaching or that you're meeting with, and so you can make that choice on your own. Now in Meeting Basic, let's look and see what we have there. Here are the settings dealing with our chat box. Now the chat box is a pretty powerful tool that we have. We can allow the meeting participants to send messages visible to all participants. And I think that is a fantastic idea. It is one way that we can keep the noise down, but at the same time allow discussion and discourse to happen during the class time that we have together. Now, we also have this option for private chat, and that allows meeting participants to send private one-to-one messages to another participant. Now, the students may think that it's completely private and nobody can see but except the two that are messaging one another, but you can remind them that at the end you have it to where you're going to save the chat, you can print off the chat, you've got it saved in your Google Drive, and you get to see not only the chat that everybody saw, but also all the private chats as well. So that can be a deterrent right out of the gate, but it's probably just easiest just to cut this off and just completely nip that in the bud before it ever becomes an issue. Now, if you're like me, it's very hard to remember to click that Save Chat button at the end of a class. So I really love this auto saving chats function right here. I had this checked so anything that goes on in the chat box, as soon as I click End Meeting, automatically the chat is saved and the file pops up on my computer and reminds me, hey, I saved your chat for you. And so there it is. This sound notification when someone joins or leaves is super helpful, especially after class has already started. So when I get teaching and I get in teach mode and not in welcoming everybody mode, I oftentimes forget to check the participants list and just see if anybody is coming in as a straggler. So it's very helpful to hear a little knock, 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 somebody's at the door, and I don't just leave them, hanging out in the cold trying to get into class. All right, let's scroll on down. During the screen share, you have the option to show the Zoom windows. I have this off right now. I only turn this on, and the meeting control bar also, and I only turn this on if I'm doing a Zoom on showing how to do a Zoom. Otherwise, these toolbars and whatnot get in the way of what the students are trying to learn. I really only want them seeing the Google Slides or the video or whatever it is with the content that I'm trying to present to them, rather than all the toolbars and the windows and all the other doodads that are controlling my computer at that time. Less distraction is golden. Here are your screen sharing settings. So you can choose, who can share. If I really only want it just to be the teacher sharing, then this is where I'm going to choose that. Or I can choose if I want my students to be sharing maybe their work, if they've done projects and we're going to be sharing with the class that day, I can choose all participants and give them the option to share their screen with the class as well. Scrolling on down, we have the option of annotation and whiteboard. Now, keep in mind, annotation is a great tool, as is the whiteboard, but if your students are going to be on Chromebooks or mostly Chromebooks, Chromebooks do not allow the annotation or the whiteboard features. So if your students are on a laptop, a tablet, or a phone, they can do this, but not with the Chromebooks. So just keep that in the back of your mind if you're planning content content delivery with those tools in mind. Now, if you are on a tablet, a laptop, or a phone, then you can use the annotation in the whiteboard and they will still be able to see it. They just won't be able to participate with annotation and whiteboard. They'll just only be able to view it. Alright, let's scroll down and see this nonverbal feedback and meeting reactions. The nonverbal feedback this is where you turn on the nonverbal feedback and you turn on the meeting reactions. The nonverbal feedback are those mini tools that you see at the bottom of the participants window. You have a thumbs up and a thumbs down and a little coffee cup and a little clock and a yes and a no and a go faster or a go slower. And those things allow you to allow your participants to interact with the host without having to say anything. And then the meeting reactions are just a thumbs up and a clap emoji that come up and then they disappear after 10 seconds. So you can toggle those on or off. If they become a distraction, toggle them off. But you can also use them in your class as a great tool for your students to participate in class. Again, with kind of keeping the noise down and all the background noise that could come along with unmuting all at the same time. Allowing these removed participants to rejoin. If you had somebody that either was misbehaving in class and you had to remove them from class for the day, you're probably not going to want them to be able to rejoin right away. So I would leave that off. And then allowing participants to rename themselves. This is a good thing for you to have on. A lot of times students will join on mom or dad's phone or tablet that they have at the house, and so their screen name will just be iPad or Samsung Galaxy 8 or whatever, and you don't know, there might be 5 iPads sitting there and you don't know who is who. And so saying, hey, please go ahead and rename yourself with your first name and your last initial so we all know who everybody is in case we're not showing video at that time. So having that toggled on is going to be a big help. All right, let's look at the in-meeting advanced section. This is where you're going to find the breakout rooms. Now, breakout rooms is kind of like when you're in a face-to-face meeting and you allow your participants to break into groups and discuss something and then come back to whole group after that time. So you are going to be able to, as the host, split the meeting participants into separate, smaller, like little baby Zooms. And so they'll break off into these smaller rooms, these smaller Zoom rooms, and discuss for a few minutes, and then they'll all come back together into the bigger room. But that will only be available to you as a host if this is toggled on. Now you can do this at random. Zoom can randomly assign people to rooms, or you can assign participants on your own when you're scheduling the meeting to begin with. You can also turn on closed captioning, and Zoom will close caption and provide that for you for your meeting. Now, it does the best it can. So it's not perfect, but it is there. Scrolling down some more, Zoom will also do the best it can to provide you a virtual background. It helps a lot if you have a green screen or a blue screen, or honestly any color screen, as long as it's a solid color, and hopefully you're not wearing some of that same color, because whatever you have that's that same color is also going to disappear with your background. So you can toggle on that switch if you want that to be an option for you in your meetings. And then let's scroll on down to the email settings. There's just a couple of those that pertain to us. So if you want to get an email when you have attendees that join the meeting before you get there, and this happens often, and they'll send you an email that says, start your meeting, so-and-so's in there and they're waiting on you. And, you can choose to hop in there early, or you can choose to just wait. It's up to you. And then you can choose to get an email notification when there's a meeting that's canceled. It'll notify the host or participants when a meeting is canceled. So that is pretty quickly going over in the meeting settings that you can find inside the zoom.us website. Now, when you're actually in the app, there are other settings that you can mess with that will pertain to your experience while you're in a meeting, but these are going to help you while you're setting up your meeting to begin with.